Day 2. Emma felt very exposed to danger as she walked down the long, empty road. Not one car had passed either way, and everything was very quiet. There was a bird chirping here and there, but other than that there was no sign of life anywhere. It was unnerving. She wasn't sure how long she had been on the road. She had no way of keeping track of time, but she figured it had to be at least an hour since she left the town. A few more hours and she would be at the next town. Her destination would be one step closer then. A wolf howled in the distance. Emma's heart sank as the howl was followed by laughter. The werewolf named Kevin. Breaking into a run, Emma prayed that she might make it to the next town. They wouldn't attack her in public, would they? They didn't even appear when she was at the diner. No, they wouldn't risk being caught. "Hey Emma, running makes you so sexy." It had to be Kevin. None of the others would come out during the day. She still had to worry about him. He had to be just as dangerous as the others. "I love it when they run away." His laugh made her think of a maniac. There was no mercy in it. She doubted any of them were capable of mercy. She ran on as fast as she could, but she ended up seeing him out of the corner of her eye anyway. Just as she caught sight of him, he dived out of the woods and tackled her to the ground. As she screamed, he dragged her into the forest. He straddled her and gave her a hard blow to the jaw. The pain was sharp. She could feel the bruise already forming. 20 minutes. He was pinning her down, and she only had 20 minutes to get away. "The clock is ticking," he said in a sing-song voice. "This is so much fun, ain't it?" His yellow eyes shined in amusement as he leaned into her and licking her cheek. Emma was repulsed. This man wasn't like the first vampire who attacked her. He was dirty, smelled bad, and was dressed in old ragged clothes. The vampires had all been in the same black shirt and jeans. He wasn't. Emma was pulled back to the moment when Kevin bit into her arm. Screaming, she bucked underneath him, causing him to fall off her. His teeth ripped away from her, taking flesh with them. Emma could only scream some more at that point, but when Kevin moved to pin her down again, she instinctively kicked out and got him in the face. While he screamed and blood gushed out of his nose, Emma forced herself to her feet and ran. "So close, Emma," Kevin shouted. "5 more minutes and you would have been mine." He laughed, but did not chase after her. She kept running, making as much distance as she could between them, and also making it into town just before the sunset. The first thing she saw was a gas station, which she frantically ran into. The cashier, some teenage boy, nearly fainted when she came in. Her arm was dripping with blood from the bite. He did not argue when she helped herself to the first aid items she needed. Once she was properly bandaged, she gave her thanks to the frightened boy and took her leave. Staying in town was her best bet for the night. She needed to find a place to rest. She was getting a little dizzy from the blood loss and needed to give her body some time to recuperate. She roamed through the town, passing people who were blissfully oblivious to the horror she was living. Would any of them try to help her if they knew? Would they risk their lives to save her, a person that they'd never met before in their life? Her questions were unanswered as she was pulled out of public view from behind. Whoever it was, she had a feeling she knew who. They dragged her a ways into the back roads of the town before dropping her on the ground. Landing on her hands and knees, Emma looked up. None other than the man who made her the deal was standing before her. He grinned while looking down at her. "Forgot to tell you my name," he said, kicking her in the stomach. "It's Marcus." She lay in a crumpled heap as he kicked her over and over. Soon she was gasping for breath and was unable to move. Marcus knelt beside her and began to run his hand through her hair, stroking gently. "I've got a little present for you," he whispered in her ear, "for making it this far. You're doing better than I expected, you know." He placed something in her hand. It was thin and hard. Emma looked at it. A card? No, a motel key. "Congratulations," Marcus said. "Now let's see if I can keep you down there." Moving quickly, he grabbed Emma's head and crushed her lips to his. Emma whimpered. He pulled away and chuckled. "See you in a bit," he said cheerfully, before kicking her again. He walked away, leaving her gasping and crying in pain. It took her a while to get up, but when she did, she slowly limped her way to the motel. She needed shelter.
Day 3. Emma sat in the bathroom, properly washing her wound from Kevin. She didn't want it to get infected because she couldn't go to a hospital just yet. They would keep her there longer than the allotted time, and they would ask her too many questions that she could not answer. Once her wound was rebandaged, Emma pulled her hoodie back on, dismayed by the hole in her sleeve caused by Kevin. She grabbed her backpack from the chair it was on, went to the door, and opened it only to find herself face to face with a black-eyed vampire. "Why, hello, Emma," he said, stepping into the room. "It's such a relief to see that Marcus hasn't made it here yet. He usually wins when they are here, you know." He closed the door behind him, grinning slyly. Emma turned and ran for the bathroom. There was a window in there she could crawl out of, but he was quicker and tackled her to the ground. He wasted no time in trying to pull her pants down. More fear welled inside her, once she realized what he was intending to do. "No!" she screamed. "Stop! Please!" Maybe it was the fear making her act out, or maybe her instincts were taking over again, but when the man paid no attention to her pleas, she reached out and punched him. There was more momentum than expected behind her punch. There was a cut below his left eye that bled freely. The man was pissed now. Seeing her opportunity rise as he slightly shifted off her, Emma bolted to her feet and ran for the door. "You bitch!" he shouted. Just before a loud bang followed an unbelievable pain in her arm. Too shocked to scream, Emma fell on the ground, clutching her arm. The man had a gun in his hand. She had been shot. The pain was too much. She couldn't focus on anything but the pain. She was aware that Marcus had appeared in the room, but she wasn't frightened at the moment. Everything around her was beginning to fade. Before she knew it, she was unconscious. Day 4. Marcus gave her the rest of the night and the entire day to recoup from the shot. Her arm burned with a pain that made the bite seem like nothing more than an itch. How was she supposed to go on now? They clearly expected her to, but would she be able to do it? She had a bullet lodged in her arm. She wasn't going to dare and try to remove the thing on her own. Not only would that hurt worse, but it would also make things worse for her in the long run. She did the only thing she knew wouldn't cause too much trouble. Using her good arm and her teeth, she ripped up the bedsheet and made a makeshift tourniquet and sling for the wound. By then it was night, and she found herself hitchhiking to the next town with an old man who was very concerned about the bruises she carried. There was a frightfully awful one on her jaw that was a nasty purple and black at the moment. He had told her he would take her to the hospital in the next town, which is exactly what he did. He wouldn't drive away until he watched her go into the hospital and walk up to a nurse. Once they started talking, he felt better and drove away. Inside the hospital, Emma had stopped the nurse to ask one important question. "How far is the next town?" Day 5. Continued. She is still in that town, trying to find a ride to the next town. Earlier she thought she saw the red-haired vampire and had made a run for it. Now she was resting in the alley. The bullet wound hurt something awful, and her body was sore from all the beatings. She wished she could fall into that sleep that her body desperately needed, but she still had to make it to the next city. She was a sitting duck until then. She had 2 days left, and she had to secure a ride to the next town. Hopefully her ride would take her straight to the airport, but there was no way she would get that lucky. What a relief it would be if she could make it there. She could go back to safety. "Yoo-hoo!" Her eyes snapped open. Kevin stood over her. "Hello, baby," he said. "I sure did miss you." He grabbed her by the arms and threw her further into the alley. She hit a trash can and fell to the ground. Wasting no time, Kevin ran over to her and started kicking her legs and back. She could only curl into a ball and wait until he was finished. Once he was out of breath, he stopped. "That was fun," he panted. 7 minutes left. Once she heard that, she let her instincts take over. They hadn't failed her yet. She lunged at his legs, knocking him over. As he hit the ground, she sprang up and ran away. Adrenaline blocked the pain and the soreness in that moment, but her bruised legs weren't able to carry her as fast as she needed them to. Kevin didn't chase her anyway. She thought she was in the clear, but she was wrong. 2 vampires, one of them with red eyes and the other with orange eyes, cornered her in an alley. "Allow me to introduce myself." the red-eyed man said. "Name's Clyde, and his name's Duncan." "Aren't those some plain names for two vampires?" The two laughed. Duncan had short brown hair and many tattoos on his arms. He had a wider build than Clyde and was very muscular, which made Emma immediately more wary of him. "Let's have some fun, shall we?" Clyde said, before they both lunged at her. They beat her almost into unconsciousness. Their blows held no mercy, and they didn't stop until the sun began to rise. "Shit!" Duncan spat. "See you later, Emma." Just like that, they left her.